in Nigeria. Just 10 days ago, we held a national retreat on the proposal to end open defecation in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, we may recall that this journey on the revitalization of the water, sanitation and hygiene sector began at the 24th meeting of the National Council on Water Resources that took place in August 2017 at Akure as a result of the worrisome reports on the state of our water supply system and the increasing number of people without access to sustainable sanitation, including those defecating in the open all over the country. To address the reported low access to water, sanitation and hygiene services and the consequent high prevalence of waterborne diseases in different parts of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari demonstrated the highest political commitment ever witnessed in the sector when on the 8th of November 2018, he not only launched the National Action Plan for the revitalization of the water, sanitation and hygiene sector, but also declared a state of emergency on the wash sector. Since the presidential launch, Nigerians have been asking, what next? And this underscores the need for this workshop, where we'll begin to erect platforms for the implementation of the action plan as a follow-up to the resolution of the 25th meeting of the National Council of Water Resources, where states were urged to adopt and commit to implementing the National Action Plan. We, on our part, have started taking steps by setting up the National Coordination Office to coordinate the action plan implementation. We have urged state governments, through a letter to the governors, to take advantage of the support offered by the National Coordination Office in order to implement the National Action Plan. As you may be aware, within the National Action Plan, a provision has been made for the establishment of a National Wash Fund to mobilize available resources in line with the estimated expenditure to provide water and sanitation for all by 2030. The fund will renew a federal-state partnership towards the credible pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals and ensure that the federal government effectively guides, supports, and incentivizes state investments and reform efforts. The federal government is resolved and committed to vigorously pursuing the Sustainable Development Goal 6 and ensuring that we leave no one behind, which is the theme for the World Water Day that we celebrated just last Friday. Allow me to remind us that time is of essence to achieve this goal. In order to best harness the political will demonstrated by the declaration of the state of emergency to precipitate immediate improvements within the sector, we must look critically at what we mean by a state of emergency and come out with concrete proposals and recommendations that will facilitate prompt attention to the action plan implementation at both federal and state levels. For instance, as we may recall, the initial 5 years of the revitalization strategy have been designated as a 5-year recovery program, within which the first 18 months was prioritized as the emergency phase. As our country has been in a period of political campaigns and national elections, it may be necessary to adjust the period of the emergency phase to enable us enough time to put in place the political, legislative, financial, and administrative structures upon which to build the national recovery for the nation's wash sector. As sector practitioners and related sector experts, we must take a critical look at the 5 pillars of the National Action Plan, namely governance, sustainability, sanitation, funding and finance, and monitoring and evaluation, and provide clarity to Nigerians on what we will do to implement these pillars during the emergency phase. I'm looking forward to your recommended priority actions and timeline for the emergency phase. As you are aware, we are beginning to put in place interventions to end open defecation in our country, as Nigeria is set to become the leading country with the highest number of people defecating in the open by October this year, when India would have exited this position. India, through the Swachh Bharat or Clean India mission, is moving over 500 million people away from defecating in the open within 4 years through the SBM campaign and provision of over 90 million toilets. Following the visit of a Nigerian delegation to India to study the Swachh Bharat mission, we have established a Clean Nigeria Stop Open Defecation program. The goal is to end open defecation in Nigeria by 2025. We recognize that this can only happen at the state and local levels, and as such, we urge the state and local governments to key into the initiative as a matter of urgency. Our actions going forward must be immediate and deliberate. I hereby urge all of us to give our focused attention, contribution and support to the development of the implementation plan of the National Action Plan over the next 2 days. In particular, I look forward to your recommendations on the proposed National Wash Fund. We have been deliberate in inviting practitioners in the Nigerian development finance sector, including the Central Bank, Nigeria Infrastructure Development Bank, Federal Mortgage Bank, and TED Fund, and welcome our multilateral and bilateral partners as we deliberate on the process to establish the Wash Fund. The National Strategy for the Implementation of Village-Level Operation and Maintenance of Rural Water Supply Facilities, which I will shortly be launching, has been prepared as part of the sustainability efforts on access to adequate and equitable supply of safe drinking water in our rural areas. The strategy will not only enable us to put ownership of the facilities in the hands of the communities, but have institutional arrangement for their adequate operation and maintenance. I wish to commend UNICEF, the European Union, and the UK AID for supporting us to develop the VLOM strategy. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me at this juncture to use this opportunity to thank the team of experts, practitioners, and staff of the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, other federal MDAs, and state water agencies who have worked assiduously on this journey to see to the development of this action plan. I acknowledge with gratitude the World Bank that has sent a delegation from Washington, D.C. to join us at this event, UNICEF, African Development Bank, the French Development Agency, the Islamic Development Bank, WaterAid, and the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council for contributing in one way or the other to this process. As we enter the phase of Wash Action Plan implementation, all hands must be on deck. We cannot look back any longer. We hope that your contributions, support, and assistance will be sustained and redoubled during the implementation phases. Finally, I would like to call on all the participants to give the necessary attention and seriousness this workshop deserves, and to use the outcome of the workshop to begin the process of revitalizing our water, sanitation, and hygiene sector. Let me repeat what I said at the retreat that was held on open defecation last week. There should be less talk and more action. After this workshop, we must begin to see action. I hope I will not be here addressing opening sessions, but I will be addressing progress that is being made in future gatherings like this. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor and privilege to declare this workshop open and to also launch the National Village-Level Operation and Maintenance Strategy. Thank you.
Let me assure you that our ministry is committed to ensuring that we leave no one behind. Water and sanitation is a human right, a first step out of poverty, and a foundation for the attainment of all sustainable development objectives. It is our belief that we can make water and sanitation accessible to all by 2030. We should strive to make this happen for the sake of our children, our girls, and our women. It is to this end that I announce that we are open to partnership and collaboration with all stakeholders.